Now, I know the international break has just started, but that doesn't stop me making some FPL videos to keep you guys ticking over if you're bored like I get. So here is the best wildcard draft for Game Week 29. Okay, without further ado, and I'm going for 2 players as my goalkeepers because I think these guys really go together as a duo, and that's Kepa and David Raya of Brentford. For me, they're 2 of the best value goalkeepers in FPL at the moment, and they've got some great fixture rotation between them. The only problem is, in Game Week 29, it is a bit of a coin flip as to who you play. I think Villa and Liverpool against Raya's Brighton and Man United are very comparable fixtures. Looking at the expected points, I think Kepa takes it, but I do think it's quite close. But looking at the remaining fixtures for the game weeks ahead, I think it's quite clear as to who the best player is to start. I think either Kepa or David Raya have a top 6 team, and the other guy doesn't for most of the rest of the season. So it should make things quite easy for rotation. And yeah, I just think as a pair, they go together really well. They've got Say's bonus points potential as well, which I really like, alongside the fact that whilst they're not the best defensive teams in the league, Brentford and Chelsea are definitely capable of keeping clean sheets, and they're both pretty nailed, solid starters. So starting things off, Kepa and David Raya, your 2 goalkeepers. First defender is Kieran Trippier. He's the top scoring defender in FPL by over 30 points. Second place is Gabriel at the moment. I think even without clean sheets, which you might not get in that Man United game, he still has the potential of attacking returns and bonus points just for the way he puts in so many crosses and creates so many chances. I do think the double game week is decent. Man United at home is obviously quite a tough fixture, and I'm not sure they'll keep a clean sheet. But Kieran Trippier's always got an opportunity of attacking returns and bonus points. And then the West Ham away fixture, I think he'll do well in. Again, a chance for attacking return, bonus points, and I do think Newcastle can keep a clean sheet in that one. So yeah, Kieran Trippier is the first defender on my team sheet. Next, we got Ben Chilwell. Similar sort of reasons for Trippier, really. I think he's definitely one of the best defenders in FPL at the moment. He looks to be back fit and starting regularly for Chelsea. Obviously, they've progressed to the next round of the Champions League, so that's a bit of an issue. He could get rotated, but when you look at this draft in full, the bench is very strong, so there's always an option for someone to come in if Chilwell doesn't start. And just looking at the long-term fixtures, I think Chelsea's fixtures are really good. The one against Liverpool at home in 29 is obviously challenging, but I do think he can still get an attack and return in that game. I don't really like Liverpool defensively. I know they've kept a number of consecutive clean sheets this season, but whenever I watch them play, they just look all over the place and really, really leaky. So I do think Liverpool could struggle against Chelsea, and hopefully meaning some attacking returns for Chilwell. And just in general, the 2 Chelsea defenders you're going to consider are mainly Chilwell and Reece James. And just based on his recovery from injury and how consistent he's been since he's been back, I think Chilwell looks a more solid option than Reece James. It's the curious case of the disappearing AirPods today. I've completely forgot they were in when I was recording. Obviously, don't need earphones in to record when I'm on my own. I've gone for Pervis Estupiñán as my 3rd defender. I think for me, he's the top pick of all of those Brighton defenders. Seems nailed to start for them, and he's definitely getting forward the most in that left-back position. He's got a great double in 29. I think good chance for clean sheet in both of those games, to be honest. Brentford's going to be a tough one. Obviously, Bournemouth scoring goals, but I do think those are 2 of the... Yeah, especially Bournemouth. I do think Brighton could keep a clean sheet in that one. And yeah, just for the fact he's only 4.8 million, I think the weeks where he's got a tougher fixture, given 30, 31 and 32, you'd happy to be either selling him or just benching him. The one thing to monitor that I've seen going around on Twitter, although I don't think it's going to come to fruition or be an issue, is that one of his fixtures, well, his last fixture of the international break for Colombia is against Australia. So he's going to be travelling from Australia back to Brighton, which is obviously quite a long journey. I think he'll be fine, though. A lot of people are doubting whether he's going to be back for that Brentford game. I think he'll be fine. Footballers travel in private jets. He'll have a bed. He'll have all the facilities he needs to get over the jet lag. I think he'll be just fine. So for me, Pervis Estupiñán, straight in my wildcard team. And then the first of my midfield picks, it's quite an obvious one really, it's Marcus Rashford. I don't need to say too much to sell you guys on him. I think he is just the best midfielder in the game at the moment. He's the top player for expected points in Game Week 29, so which means he's my captaincy pick. I think he's the best captain. His form is ridiculous since the World Cup. He's got 23 goals and assists in 24 games. And yeah, for me, he's just the first name on the team sheet for Game Week 29. And I think just looking at how Man United have developed over the last few months, certainly when Rashford's picked up form after the World Cup, he's really become the focal point for their attack, which I think means he's just going to get more involved in the game, on the end of more chances. And yeah, he's just ridiculous. You just simply have to have him. Next up is James Maddison, the talisman of that Leicester City team. They are absolutely terrible when he's not playing for them. He's on the free kicks. He's a great free kick taker, so offers goal opportunities from those. As I said, everything Leicester do goes through him. He's got 9 goals, 6 assists from 20 Premier League starts, which I think, carrying over, I do think you can back him to get some attacking returns, especially Palace away is a good fixture. Villa at home is not a bad one either. And just for me, he's a really fun asset to watch and own. And FPL is all about enjoying the game and having fun, as well as doing well and scoring points. So I think Maddison offers both of those things in boatloads. And yeah, that double in 29, Palace and Villa, I think are really good games. And he's got Bournemouth at home in 30 as well. So you could quite feasibly have him starting in your team for 29 and 30. Next up, I've gone for Bruno Fernandes. Now, it remains to be seen exactly the position he's going to line up in. Now, Casemiro's got quite a substantial ban for getting yet another red card in the Prem, but I do think Fernandes is a great option regardless of that. With the decent double that he's got in 29, strong fixtures in 31 and 30, just in general, I think Everton, Nottingham Forest, 2 good games. He's the Man United penalty taker, so he's always got that in his locker to score goals from. And yeah, just coming back from the World Cup, I think he's a changed player in terms of that Ten Hag United team. And yeah, he's becoming not the focal point that Rashford is, but the creator sort of role to set up all the chances. He's looking really good, and I think he's a great option for 29. If you don't fancy him, or he's not performed, given that new position he's going to be playing without Casemiro in the squad, he's a perfect price to be subbing him out for someone like Saka, who obviously is just as good, if not better than Bruno, but doesn't double in 29. So you could quite feasibly get through 30 and 31 with Bruno and then bring Saka back into your team. But yeah, I think Game Week 29, you've got to really go for Bruno if you're on a wild card. I think he's a great option with low ownership, so you'll gain rank quite easily if he does well above players that don't play their wild card. Next up is a bit of a feature, really, rather than an individual player, and it's just on the Brighton midfield. For me, everyone knows there are 3 options. You've got March, Mitoma, and McAllister, and it's just a case of picking 2. I don't think there's a whole lot to separate them, but I've done a little piece here just to say what I think the upsides and the downsides are to each of the players. So McAllister, in my opinion, is probably the best option, but it relies on him playing in, well, the more advanced midfield position, because at the moment De Zerbi's got Gross and Casado playing in the deeper midfield roles, and previously Gross and McAllister were swapped around. So McAllister was playing deep, Gross was playing more advanced, and that means McAllister's underlying numbers are really quite poor. But when he's playing in that more advanced position, his underlying numbers are really good, and he's the designated free kick and penalty taker for Brighton. Solly March, he's got the best underlying numbers, joint most goals with McAllister, although Mitoma scored 6, March has scored 7, and McAllister scored 7 as well, so there's not a whole lot between them. And yeah, De Zerbi puts a lot of attacking responsibility on Solly March. So yeah, he's a great option, as is Mitoma. He passes the eye test, definitely the best to watch, but actually has the worst underlying numbers of the 3. So really, it's a case of picking your 2 favourites and just running with them, because ultimately, I think variance, it will likely even out, and they'll both finish on very similar points anyway. A couple of strikers up next, starting with Darwin Núñez. He is just an absolute machine for underlying numbers. They're ridiculous, and he looks dangerous against every opponent that he plays. Given the double in 29 is tough, he's got City and Chelsea, I still think he can do really well in those 2 games. I think he's a nice differential that you can pick on your wild card. Just given that City and Chelsea, they can see goals, and Darwin is just all over every chance that Liverpool seem to be making. He's just an absolute machine. He's someone different to Watkins, who's going to be very popular in 29. People who have brought him in 28 for Haaland. And yeah, he's still holding that above 1 expected return per 90, which is just insane. It's only Haaland is better than Darwin Núñez in terms of those stats. And I know that the 3 fixtures, Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal, they're tough. But Man City and Chelsea, I do think they can concede goals, and I do think Darwin Núñez, you can give any defence in the world problems, in my opinion, and I definitely think he can do that to Man City and Chelsea. Then the final player in my starting 11, I've gone for Ivan Toney. I think this could quite easily be Ollie Watkins, but I just think the upside Tony has blitzes Ollie Watkins, really. And you'll see why I am considering Ollie Watkins in a second. But yeah, you could easily see Tony scoring in both of those fixtures, in my opinion. Brighton and Man United on face value are tough games, but he's already scored in the away fixtures at the Etihad in the Emirates. And I think, honestly, the way that Brighton and Man United play, I think suit Brentford's strengths in terms of scoring goals. He's just in general one of the top strikers in the league. He's obviously made the England squad, so hopefully he doesn't get injured while he's on international duty. We'll see what happens there, but this is obviously an early video just to give an idea of the wildcard team. He's the Brentford talisman. He's absolutely nailed. Plays 90 minutes, takes the penalties, and I've also noticed over the last couple of weeks he's been over a couple of free kicks and came really close to scoring from them as well. And yeah, the one thing about Tony is he's on 9 yellow cards. 10 is a 2-match ban, so if he gets booked in the Brighton or Man United fixtures, he's going to be banned basically. So yeah, just one to monitor. So that's why you could quite easily swap him out for Watkins, who has similar upsides and less yellow cards. But I just think Tony is a better option. And when you're on your wild card, I feel like you have a bit more freedom to pick someone. So for that reason, I'm going for Tony. But I couldn't begrudge you if you fancied Watkins instead. And then this is the team as a whole. So I've gone through the starting 11. On the bench, I've gone for Raya, Haaland, just to save yourself that free transfer. And if maybe you don't fancy Tony or Watkins, you could quite feasibly start with Haaland. I do think that Liverpool game offers some good upside for Haaland. He scored 8 goals in his last 2 games, for God's sakes. Like, he looks a great option, even though it's only a single and even though he's against Liverpool. Zinchenko's my second defender. I think he's my pick of the Arsenal defence that are quite simply the best defence in the league at the moment. So I've gone for him. And then Perraud makes third on my bench. Just seems to be the best of the cheapy defenders, in my opinion. I always like, when I play the wildcard or whatever, to go for a third really cheap defender, and that's what Perraud offers you. Honourable mentions, already gone through Watkins. I think Isak for Newcastle is a great option. Just a bit of rotation risk with Callum Wilson, but looking at the expected points, he's actually looking better than Darwin Núñez. And we've gone through what the Newcastle double game week is when we've done Trippier, so I do think he could score quite easily in both those fixtures. But I've just gone for Darwin because I think he's a bit better. And then Salah, I just couldn't fit him into this team, but similar reasons for Darwin Núñez, really. He doesn't seem to be immune to scoring against the big teams. I think he's had braces and hat-tricks against Man City in the past from memory. Might just be a brace. But he always seems to do well against Man City, and I don't think Chelsea are absolutely amazing defensively, even though I've got Kepa. I still think Salah could quite easily score in the Man City and Chelsea games, so I simply have to have him as an honourable mention. There's no way you can ignore him. But yeah, pick him, I'd say, if you've got enough money in the bank. But I just couldn't fit him in with this team structure. But yeah, that's the team and some honourable mentions. Well, that's the end of the video. I hope that keeps you ticking over during what I find to be quite a boring international break. If you did enjoy the video, please leave me a like rating. Subscribe to the Goal and Goal channel. I'll have plenty more FPL content coming your way for the rest of the season. We've got videos, deadline streams, you name it. I'll be doing it. And yeah, let me know what you think of my team in the comments. If you have any positions you change or players you don't like, please let me know. I say it in every outro, but FPL is genuinely all about different opinions. So if you have one, I'd be happy to hear it. I'll see you in the next one, guys.